Hi there, welcome back to Spring into Math 7. I'm Mrs. Campbell, and today we're going to be doing part 2 on our lesson about special part of angles. Let's get started. Okay, so last time we were together, we talked about angles, and this time I want to talk about lines, kind of a shift in our direction, but it's going to be so important as we move further and further in geometry. Let's take a look at, first of all, intersecting lines. We're going to be talking about intersecting lines, parallel lines, and perpendicular lines. Let's start with intersecting lines. Okay, when two lines intersect when they cross each other, because all lines are straight, intersecting lines can only cross each other once. Look at the examples below and imagine the lines extend beyond the picture forever. Can you see how they never cross more than once? If you want, you could use your finger and kind of continue, pretend as if the line were to continue off the paper. You'd see pretty quickly and easily that they will not cross more than once. All right, next I wanted to talk about parallel lines. Now, parallel lines are lines that never intersect. They never cross over. They never cross, so they never form angles. They kind of look like railroad tracks, don't you think? That. And another easy way to remember that parallel lines never cross is you could think of the two L's in the word parallel, like I have in blue there. That might help you to remember that they don't cross, ever. And finally, perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines, highlight that, are two lines that form right angles when they intersect. And here's some examples of perpendicular lines. Down and across, diagonal, diagonal. However you place it, they both create 90-degree angles. Therefore, these lines are called perpendicular. All right? All four angles formed by the perpendicular line measures 90 degrees. And again, remember when you see that little box, then you know that it's indicating that there's 90 degrees in that angle. All right, let's practice. So I'd like you to give this a shot yourself. See if you can identify whether these lines are perpendicular, parallel, or just intersecting. If you need to, go ahead and pause your computer and come back when you're done. All right, everyone, how did you do? Let's take a look. Number 1, parallel. They're right next to each other in a row of 2. Number 2, intersecting. They are not perpendicular. They're just intersecting. They're not making a 90-degree angle. But look at number 3. Do you think that might be perpendicular? Yes, it is. It doesn't have the box there, but yes, those two lines are perpendicular. They make a right angle. And look at number 4. I like this one because it's kind of tricky. Number 4, actually, these lines are intersecting. Now, they're not intersecting here. But remember what I said at the beginning of the lesson, that you have to kind of pretend that the lines continue on forever and ever. Can you see how they eventually would cross? They would intersect. So that one is intersecting. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is corresponding angles. All right, so let's look at this line that's intersecting two parallel lines. So you've got parallel line here, A and B. Y is intersecting those two parallel lines. Now, what we're going to be talking about are these angles that you see here. D, E, F, G, P, Q, and so on and so forth. So, let's take this step by step. First of all, when line Y intersects with line A, it forms 100-degree angle and an 80-degree angle on the top and vice versa on the bottom. So let me show you what I mean by this. If you follow the highlighter, here's Y, and it intersects with A. You notice how E is 80 degrees and D is 90 degrees. 100 plus 80 is 180. Now you have vertical angles, so F will be 100 and G will be 80. Pretty simple, right? Okay, but watch how this gets really interesting. As Y continues down, the Y line continues down, and it crosses over or intersects line B, here, let's check out these measurements. What do you notice? Do you see the pattern there? 80 and 100, 80 and 100. Vertical, they are called corresponding. I have it written out here like this. It says look at angle E and Q. They have the same measurement. They are corresponding angles. E is 80, Q is 80. Do you see how the angles can correspond from the top intersection to the bottom intersection? F is R, G is S, and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool. So here I have them all spelled out for you just in case you wanted to write that down. The corresponding angles here are E, 80, Q, 80, F, 100, and R, 100, G, 80, S, 80, D, 100, and P, 100. All right, let's try this one. Fill in the figure below with the angle measurements for all the angles shown. Oh my goodness, can we do this? We only have one measurement. Sure you can. Now that you know about corresponding angles, of course you can. Also what you know about vertical angles too, and adjacent angles. Okay, so let's take this one step at a time again. Angle 1, you may have already figured out, it has to equal 120 degrees. Why? Well, because 60 is adjacent, this angle, it doesn't have a number, we'll maybe call that angle 0, is 60 degrees, and it's adjacent to angle 1. We know that has to equal 180 degrees. So angle 1 has to equal 120, because 120 plus 60 is 180, or 180 minus 60 is 120. All right, now what about angle 2? Well, now that we know that 60 is here, the angle 2 is vertical to 60, so we know that's going to be 60. Angle 3 has to equal 120 degrees because it is vertical to angle 1 and adjacent to the 60-degree angle. Okay? And then basically the line at the bottom, if we were to say the top line was A and the bottom line was B in those parallel lines, the numbers would correspond. 1 would be the same as 4. The one that's 60 degrees would be the same as 5. 2 would be 6. And 3 would be 7. All right, let's take a quick recap of all the new awesome geometry words that you've learned today. We have talked about adjacent angles, vertical angles, intersecting lines, parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and corresponding angles. That just about does it for this lesson. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.